Hey, Murph here. And if you haven't been paying attention to the news or social media, if you've been hiding under a rock somewhere, which may not necessarily be a bad place to be right about now, you've heard about New York State's new abortion law, which is abortion on demand up to the day of birth. Virginia has also tried the same thing, except theirs was abortion after birth, which did fail, thankfully, by one vote. Just one. And if you pay any attention to history, maybe you're growing up in a time where they've not taught you about World War II. They haven't taught you about socialism or communism. Maybe you're old enough to remember, I don't know. But Hitler killed 11 million Jews, Christians, and other people wholesale. Loaded them up in box cars, shipped them off to gas chambers. And Hitler was friends with a woman named Margaret Sanger. Margaret Sanger is the founder of Planned Parenthood. Since Planned Parenthood's inception, and they push abortion and sterilization, a lot of the birth control medications and whatnot that a lot of you women are taking came from Planned Parenthood research into how to sterilize certain groups of people in order to keep them from reproducing. It's called eugenics. And of course, we have Roe v. Wade, passed back in the 70s. And I don't want to get all ticky and try to sit there and say that you have to reverse Roe v. Wade, or that if you, in order to do that, you got to reverse Obergefell, which dealt with privacy on a constitutional level. I'm not getting into all that. But since Roe v. Wade, here in America, we have aborted 41 million children. We have murdered and allowed for the murder of over 41 million children. And those children, it's murder. You may have what you think is a good reason, and if you've had an abortion, there can be forgiveness through Christ, but it's killing a child. It's killing a life. Life begins at conception in the womb, and there's just that's how you need to look at it. Trying to rename it or relabel it so it's not so hard of a thing to talk about. Saying abortion is much easier than saying murder. And of course, now they're trying to even call it something else. But here we are in the last 10 to 12 years, it's like the left-wing agenda has gone on overdrive. And especially in the last two, since Donald Trump took office. And the left, the Democrats and the left and the socialists and the communists, everybody's coming out trying to push as hard as they can to disrupt this president, to stop this president from turning our ship around. Does that make Trump perfect? No. But it does make him somebody who's in America's corner, trying to fight for and defend America. And we don't need to become a culture of death, or we don't need to continue to be a culture of death. Like I said, Hitler killed 11 million Jews and Christians. 6 million Jews, 2 or 3 million Christians, and a bunch of other folks, religious and political. Nobody ever talks about the 2 or 3 million Christians that he killed. But we have, since the 70s, killed 41 million children. We have far surpassed anything Hitler could have ever dreamed of. And yet we have people marching in the streets, praising abortion, shouting their abortion, how proud they are they killed their child. And for people to somehow think that that's a good thing? How do you... What is the mental defect that allows you to even think on some sort of logical level that killing a child is a good thing? I don't get it. And most people that get an abortion probably don't think it's a good thing, but they think it's their only choice. And it's not. There are plenty of people out there who would love to adopt an infant child. My wife and I are foster parents, and you learn through the foster system that really once a kid who's in state care or foster care hits about somewhere around 10 to 12 years old, nobody wants to adopt them. Those are the hardest ones to get adopted, and oftentimes they end up growing up and aging out of the system, and they're left to fend for themselves. And that's certainly not right, but more people want to adopt babies than they do grown kids, because you can raise a baby, you can teach and train a baby the way that you believe and the way that you want them to behave, as opposed to dealing with a grown child who has got, whatever personality issues because of their abuse and different things they've had to go through. But this idea that abortion's your only choice, like I said, New York passed their law, and their law actually calls for partial birth abortions, which their Republicans right now are looking into whether or not that's a violation of federal law. So there's a chance that that may be reversed, or at least that portion of that law may be reversed. Like I said, Virginia was trying to pass a law that would allow for the child to be born, and then for the parents and the doctors, specifically the mother and the doctors, to decide while the child's laying there on a table, do you want to kill your child now? It's disgusting. And then we see here on the news this morning, I caught a headline, Governor of Illinois has now signed something that authorizes free abortions for all state workers. It's disgusting. It's reprehensible. It's immoral. And, Nancy Pelosi says it's immoral to build a wall, to protect our country from diseased immigrants who are being sent up here by other people in other nations. Folks, if we don't begin to cherish life again, if we don't get back to a point in our society where we say life has value, life is important, then we're lost. We're done. And I don't know when the end of days, I don't know when Christ is coming back. I really, nobody knows that stuff. No one knows but the Father. So I'm not going to sit here and try and prognosticate on when the end of the world is coming. Every day we get closer to the end of the end. And was watching a sermon on YouTube the other day and came across this verse. And I know, don't take stuff out of context. And obviously, if you're interested, go read all of Revelation chapter 9, as it describes how things will be during the end times, when the tribulation is there, when Christ returns, the ensuing battles and all the different things, but the state of the world at the time of the return of Christ. In Revelation chapter 9, verse 21, says, and they did not repent of their murders. You could put abortion in there. Their sorceries, comes out of the word pharmakia, which is where we get the word pharmacy from. They're pushing fentanyl drugs, fake synthetic drugs, fentanyl and heroin, different things across the border. You have major drug companies pushing for lots of different psychiatric medications. You have medical industries trying to run our country and people trying to get laws passed to force us to take vaccines and certain medications. So that falls under sorceries. There's sexual immorality. With abortion, it falls right in line with free sex. Go out and have sex with whoever you want, whenever you want. If you're pregnant, that's okay. No big deal. Just go get an abortion. Or even here, go take this pill that'll cause an abortion. So, sexual immorality. Or their thefts. Every time you turn around, somebody's trying to tax us out of our money. Somebody's trying to steal something from somebody every time you turn around. And again, that's Revelation chapter 9, verse 21. And they did not repent of their murders, their sorceries, their sexual immorality, or their thefts. Folks, we got to turn around. We got to figure out a better way. And abortion and drugs and free sex and stealing from people is not the way to do it. And that's the direction this nation, and unfortunately a lot of churches are going that direction too, but this nation as a whole is going down the wrong path. If you don't think it is, then you're burying your head in the sand and you're ignoring the problem and you're not doing anything about it. And obviously the first and foremost thing to do would be to pray and then repent and then actually speak up and speak out when you disagree. We allowed Madalyn Murray O'Hair to lead a campaign to remove prayer from schools. And we as Christians stood up and we did nothing about it. We didn't stand up. We sat down. There's a whole generation of Christians who were told to sit down and shut up, to keep everything you do inside the four walls of your church and don't bring it out here. And, we've got to get out of that. We've got to start getting back out on the streets. We've got to start knocking on the doors. We've got to start figuring out what we can actually do to be spreading truth, spreading morality. Morality is not just what you feel like it is at the moment. Morality comes from goodness. Goodness comes from God, and that's I don't care how many United Way commercials you see. Humans are not good. We've had wars for thousands of years. Everywhere on the planet, somewhere on this planet right now, there is somebody fighting in a battle for their life, whether it be with a stick or a rock or a machete or a machine gun. Somebody out there is in war. And here we are allowing for the wholesale murder of children for profit. Planned Parenthood kills children for a profit. They sell the baby body parts. They've been caught on the Project Veritas videos bragging about and talking about the deals they make and how much money they make off of selling baby body parts. The federal government has somehow managed to give Planned Parenthood $500 million a year of our tax dollars in order for them to conduct abortions. They don't do family planning. They don't do women's health. They don't have a single clinic anywhere in America that offers anything other than a stage 1 breast exam, which is where the woman actually feels her breast for herself to check for lumps. They don't have mammogram machines. They got nothing. And of course, Planned Parenthood turns around and gives part of that $500 million back to the same politicians that get the bills and the spending allowances paid to them. So it's this nice little revolving circle. And that's got to end. That's got to stop. And, we're going down the wrong path, folks. My name's Murph, and look for more of these. I will be producing more and longer videos. Hopefully I get to about 30 minutes, And I'm going to talk about everything, folks. I'm going to talk about religion. I'm going to talk about politics. And, I was told growing up in the 80s that if you want to keep your friends and your family, there's two things you never talk about, and that's religion and politics. And I'm going to talk about both. So I'm that guy they warned you about, and I'm especially the guy the Obama administration warned you about, because I am a Christian conservative, Bible-clinging, gun-toting veteran, and I was declared a terrorist by the Obama administration. So you're going to hear from me, and you're going to hear more. I just hope you'll listen. If you don't like me, leave a comment. Maybe, tell more than one person how horrible this is. If you do like me, tell one person. Thanks for listening.